Hello, glad you can join us. Here's what we have for you this Thursday. Questions about free speech after Jimmy Kimmel is forced off the air.
Late night is just becoming extinct.
Politics at play with money on the line. The high-stakes makeup meeting in Mexico.
You won $50 million.
Oh, my God. Plus, a big pot of cash rains millions on a small northern town.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
Widespread outrage over what's being called an assault on free speech after late-night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel was pulled off the air indefinitely. ABC denounced for yanking Kimmel's show because of his comments around the killing of Charlie Kirk. Critics accuse big local ABC affiliates of catapulting to Donald Trump and his powerful appointees. And it doesn't end there. The U.S. president is calling for other hosts to be canned. CTV's Heather Wright now on the fallout and the politics at play. Heather.
Well, Sandy, it's not just the American president being accused of silencing opinions he disagrees with. Critics are slamming ABC, saying the network caved to pressure.
The controversy all stems from comments late-night host Jimmy Kimmel made on his show on Monday.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Kimmel went on to criticize Donald Trump's mourning of Kirk, pointing to the president's answer when asked how he was holding up.
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
Kimmel's comments were slammed by many on the right, including the chair of the Federal Communications Commission, who issued an unsubtle threat to ABC and its affiliates, implying broadcast licenses could be at risk if they did not take action against Kimmel. Nexstar, an ABC affiliate that is trying to merge with another group and will need FCC approval, was the first to yank Kimmel. ABC followed suit shortly after.
Trump and his allies seem to want to shut down speech that they don't like to hear.
ABC is not the first to acquiesce to pressure from the White House. CBS settled a lawsuit over a 60 Minutes interview that coincided with a merger between its parent company Paramount and Skydance. CBS has also announced plans to cancel The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, a move the network says was due to costs. Today, Trump downplayed freedom of speech concerns, calling Kimmel's ouster a business decision.
You can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
But on social media, Trump suggested other late-night hosts should be next. That leaves Jimmy and Seth two total losers, referring to The Tonight Show's Jimmy Fallon and late-night host Seth Meyers. Do it, NBC. In Ottawa, the Bloc Québécois leader declined to directly weigh in on the controversy, but paraphrased the philosopher Voltaire.
I profoundly disagree with what you say, but I will fight to the end for you to have the right to say it.
And while Jimmy Kimmel has not been officially fired, it's not clear if he will ever return to his show. Sandy.
All right, Heather, thank you. Now, the situation raises serious questions about governments using coercive powers to push media companies. And how does that sit with the public? We asked CTV's Adrian Gobriel to ask that question. And Adrian, what are people telling you?
Sandy, we hit the streets today and spoke with both Canadians and Americans. Opinions are divided. Now, one thing that most agreed upon is that in the corporate setting, free speech has been put on watch.
On the streets of Canada's largest city, Jimmy Kimmel's late-night monologue is getting plenty of play.
On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff.
It's probably best if comedy show hosts stick to comedy.
It seemed like a joke. He's a comedian. So it makes sense for comedians to make jokes.
As an American here in Canada, you're concerned?
Very concerned. Very concerned. I wish I could stay. America has a long tradition of free speech, and the First Amendment is still active in spite of Trump's efforts to dismantle the Constitution.
Though in corporate Canada, free speech can come with consequences.
I'm a free speech advocate, but I'm an employment lawyer. I'd have to warn employees, if you're going to say something that is objectively awful or could embarrass your employer, don't.
This University of Toronto religious studies professor has been put on leave after sharing what some deemed a controversial comment following the fatal shooting of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk.
I bet you she'll be suspended for a very long time, and that will be upheld by an arbitrator.
What might be offensive to you as the employer might not be offensive to me, so who's making the rules?
The employer's making the rules.
And it's not just what you might say while on office hours that could lead to your dismissal.
It's what you say anywhere, in your social media feed, to a friend after work, to anybody. If it's going to get back to your employer and the employer finds it offensive, you will be fired. If it's objectively offensive, it'll be fired for cause.
An additional warning from the employment lawyer we spoke to. In the workplace, even here in Canada, there are individuals sweeping through employee social media posts and flagging if they find something they believe is offensive. Sandy.
All right. Thank you, Adrian. I apologize for our technical problems there. Prime Minister Mark Carney is in Mexico, hoping to strengthen the bilateral relationship between our two countries in light of Donald Trump's punishing tariffs. It's also a fence-mending visit to make nice after remarks from several premiers angered the Mexicans. CTV's Judy Trin is in Mexico City with what's at stake and what's on the table. Hi, Judy.
Sandy, the Prime Minister is using this bilateral meeting with President Claudia Sheinbaum to reset a relationship that had been previously sidelined. Today, the two leaders signed a strategic partnership. The emphasis on strengthening ties with Mexico comes as U.S. President Donald Trump begins the process of unraveling CUSMA, the North American Trade Agreement. Last year, Canada did $56 billion of trade with Mexico, and Carney wants to boost that number. The Prime Minister is meeting with President Sheinbaum one-on-one. The leaders will discuss more cooperation to combat the trafficking of drugs, guns, and people. But the focus will be on building up their economies. They will also have a working lunch with top ministers, including Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand, along with Dominic LeBlanc, the lead minister responsible for U.S. trade negotiations. While the leaders talk about increasing trade with each other, it will be a conversation in the context of Trump's desire for a new North American deal.
They will be discussing their approach to the possible renegotiation of the CUSMA, but I think they're going to walk a careful balance in that they don't want to appear to be ganging up on the United States on this.
After the 4-hour meetings wrap up, the Prime Minister will host a reception for Canadian business leaders eager to expand into Mexico. Sandy.
All right, Judy with the Prime Minister. Time to bring in CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Kapelas. Okay, Vashi, how important is this 2-day visit for Mark Carney?
Well, Sandy, it's important, right? It's an opportunity to reset the relationship with Mexico, which does need some resetting. If you think back to Trump's initial economic threats against Canada back in, let's say, November of last year, there were comments from a few provincial premiers and even the Prime Minister at the time that intimated we could be considering going ahead on a bilateral basis with the United States. That ruffled a lot of feathers in Mexico. So this trip is very important from the viewpoint. If we don't want to pursue just a bilateral relationship, we want to keep things on a trilateral path, then we need to reset things, and that's the Prime Minister's aim on this trip.
Okay, so as we heard in Judy's report, Canada and Mexico are walking a fine line, working out a bilateral, and they don't want to risk upsetting the U.S. So is this a gamble for the Prime Minister?
Yeah, I mean, everything is when it comes to Trump in a way, right? If we could predict the way in which he would react to things or if he would get insulted and how he would then in turn, make his next move, we probably would have a lot more certainty in our economy at this moment. The truth of it is, they do have to walk, as Judy's piece pointed out, a delicate balancing act. Mexico has taken a different approach when it comes especially to counter tariffs, using hardly any to respond to what Donald Trump is doing. At the end of the day, it's a bit of a wash on whether their result has been that much better than ours, but ultimately, whatever is decided over this trip, if it angers President Trump more or has him turn his ire more at Canada and Mexico, neither leader wants to see that happen, so they will have to walk that kind of path very carefully, Sandy.
Okay. Vashi, as always, thank you so much for this analysis. Canada will miss its targets on reducing greenhouse gas emissions, according to new research from the Canadian Climate Institute. The group's early estimates for 2024 show that Canada's emissions are down 8.5% from 2005 levels, which is virtually unchanged from the year before. Canada's goal is a reduction of 40 to 45% by 2030, but the new findings show the country on pace for a reduction of only 25% by 2030. No reduction in the cost of buying equipment to clear your driveway this winter. In fact, the price of snow blowers and other power equipment is going up. And you won't be surprised to learn why. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth is here with another sign of the rising cost of living. Paul.
Sandy, this is an industry that could see a major price hike this winter brought on by tariffs. Lawnmowers, snowblowers, trailers, most items sold at this store are becoming more expensive.
Because we sell products that are made of steel and aluminum.
Store owner Derek Forgeron says these machines are produced south of the border, but they are made with steel and aluminum parts from Canada, which are subject to a 25% import tariff by the U.S. Some of that cost will be passed on to consumers, and these items are going up roughly 10%. Forgeron is worried that could drive customers away.
There's always that fear when prices rise that you're going to have a consumer not spend because they just can't afford it for whatever reason.
Dalhousie University business professor Dan Shaw says tariffs have caused price instability, which results in confusion and fear for customers.
Customers have reference prices in their head for what they're going to pay for different products.
And as prices continue to climb, customers may choose to be more careful and spend less. Anticipating possible supply chain and manufacturing issues brought on by tariffs, Derek Forgeron has stockpiled tools, equipment, and machinery. And by doing that, he's also put a financial strain on his company. Sandy.
Okay, Paul Hollingsworth. Still ahead, the soon-to-be end of an era. Why this curling legend is hanging up his broom. Some remarkable video now out of Vaughan, Ontario, north of Toronto, where residents say roaming coyotes are out of control. Home surveillance videos show a pack of coyotes taking over a driveway and appearing to share a meal. Another found its way into a backyard in pursuit of a small dog. Sightings in the city have soared this year, with local officials saying that they're looking into hiring licensed trappers. Well, you'll still be able to see the most recognizable face in Canadian curling for a bit longer. But Newfoundland-born Brad Gushue says he is hanging up his broom after this coming season. Gushue made the announcement in an emotional video released on social media. CTV's Garrett Barry now on the superstar's career and reaction in his hometown of St. John's. Garrett.
Sandy, Brad Gushue's legacy is just so obvious here at the St. John's Curling Club. His banners are everywhere in this building.
There's not really enough space to display all the banners and hardware, but on a special day, after Brad Gushue announced this would be his last competitive season,
to leave on a high note with no regrets,
these will go back up. It's hard to overstate just how much Team Gushue meant in this province, especially the 2006 Olympic gold. Not just a sport highlight. It was a small province punching well above its weight.
the oil boom happening. Our premier at the time, Danny Williams, had kind of changed the mentality of the province. And then we came along and won an Olympic gold medal, and we became the face of that.
His big wins, like the Brier Championship on home turf in 2017, brought an influx of people to the sport in Newfoundland and Labrador.
I've been doing curling work around this club for 20-something years, and from what it was then to what it is now, like, we've probably tripled in size. There's no room for anything here.
All told, he won 6 national titles, 15 Grand Slams, and represented the country twice at the Olympics, taking back a gold and a bronze medal. His team brought so many in Newfoundland and Labrador along for that ride.
I think people wanted something to cheer for, and it just happened to be our team, and we embraced it. We had no clue what we were doing when it happened. we're pretty lucky to be where we're from and have the support.
Gushue's swan song will be here in St. John's later this season when the Briar returns and he tries to capture his 7th national championship. Sandy.
Okay, Garrett. After the break, millions of reasons to smile. The jackpot changing lives in northern Quebec. 14 people who hit the jackpot, a whopping $50 million, playing the province's Lotto Max, got their check today. The group lives in a remote northern community near the border with Labrador, and the ticket was purchased in the aptly named town of Bonne Espérance, or Good Hope. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin traveled there to meet the winners.
Yes, Andy, this small remote village, one big and now a sizable proportion of the population here are multimillionaires. Bonne Espérance is a postcard pretty small fishing village that hit the jackpot. And marking a first in its history, Lotto Quebec chartered a small plane and invited journalists, big checks in hand. Just about all of the village's 500 souls gathered to celebrate the $50 million win.
Congratulations. Au nom de Lotto Québec, il me fait vraiment plaisir de vous remettre ce chèque de 50 millions de dollars. Félicitations.
A moment, as the mayor said, that will mark the history of Bonne Espérance.
In a million years did I ever even dream of coming here and doing this. This is fantastic.
It's at St. Paul's General Store, a few kilometers away, that the ticket to the Good Life, well, to 14 good lives, was sold. The retailer gets a commission. That's this check. And Della Spingle, who owns the store with her husband, is also among winners.
Oh, there was lots of screaming and yelling and yahoo.
The group organized by the General Store has been together for nearly 20 years, winning very little over the years. And so there was a lot of disbelief when a chain of calls started to reach the winners. And as one might expect, news spread fast.
I was just completely frozen. I was shaking. I said, this can't be real. This is not real. You know, like, I can't believe this is happening. It was so weird.
The winners began to gather at the General Store.
Between 14 of you, you won $50 million.
Oh my God!
3.5 million each.
That's Carolyn Sims with 11 children to spoil, who still can't believe there's a check to her name that size.
I couldn't believe it, and I still can't. It's hard to imagine. It's emotional. It changes your life.
Then there's Loretta Cabot-Griffin.
They retired from the fish plant.
She's a 72-year-old fish plant worker, and she hung up, or well, threw out her hairnet. And now retiring. 4 winners live on the same street. They've now dubbed it Millionaires Row, a massive transformation in a town where the main industry is fishing, and that has, over the years, struggled through some hard times. And so, as they say, winning the lottery won't change the world, but it is certainly transforming Bonne Espérance. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Bonne Espérance, Quebec.
Ah, lovely story, Jen. We like to hear those stories. Thank you for sharing your time with us. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Omar is here tonight, Heather tomorrow. But first, your local CTV News is coming up. Bye for now. Be well.